Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's great when we can help each other a little bit like that. So anyhow, we're in Facebook. Yay! It's Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So welcome everyone. I am not sure who's on Facebook. We are patched in now. Woo-hoo. And I can see the comments, which is fantastic because sometimes I can't. So we have our guest tonight, Michael Barfield, is joining us, and he's going to speak with us a little bit on the topic of motivation. I know that's been huge for everybody. We get lots of questions every week on I'm not motivated. How can I be motivated? What do I need to do to feel motivated? And Michael's here to shed a little bit of light on that. I'm super excited that he can join us tonight. And I'm really, really excited to hear a little bit more about his story. I know we posted some in our intro tonight for his appearance, but anyhow, welcome, Michael, and I think you can do a much better job of personally explaining where you're coming from and what you're doing now than I could do ever in an intro.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. And unfortunately, guys on Facebook, I can't see your comments. So if you have any questions or comments about anything, just drop them in the comment section below, and they'll get feedback to me, I guess. But yeah, so it's an honor being here. I always love jumping into these group lessons with different coaches, because it's always refreshing to talk to a new group of people, because whenever I'm talking to my clients or like my group members, it's like they know my story, like they know what I've been through, like they know my ups, they know my downs, they know my hardships. So eventually it kind of sounds like I'm beating a dead horse whenever I'm telling them my story. So it's always refreshing to just like have like a new group of eyes and a new group of ears just listening to my story. This is actually, I think, like my fifth or sixth lesson that I've made an appearance on this month. So it's been a busy month with that. But yeah, so if you are definitely lacking motivation or lacking your why or lacking like finding your reason to actually better yourself from a health standpoint, I think my story is going to help you a lot. But before I dive into my story, I do just want to put this out there. There is a lot of trigger warnings within my story, dealing with mental health, dealing with suicide, dealing with drug addiction, dealing with alcoholism, dealing with child abuse, dealing with domestic abuse. There's a lot of trigger warnings. I'm pretty sure there's almost every single trigger warning there is in my story. But I just do like to put that out there so it doesn't sneak up on anybody. And if you like need to take a step away from your computer, cell phone, tablet, whatever you're on, completely understand, no hard feelings. But yeah, I just like putting that out there before I get started. So
appreciate that. That's awesome. I can relate to a lot of those, but yeah, no, pre-framing them are wonderful.
Absolutely. All right, cool. So if you guys cannot tell, I am actually from the UK. I'm kidding. That's a terrible joke that I like to tell to start these things off. I'm actually from the South. I'm from South Carolina. I currently live in Maryland now. I'm originally born and raised from South Carolina. I lived in South Carolina for 29 years until this past May. My beautiful fiance and I relocated up here to Maryland because she is from New York and her dad got diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in April. So we tried moving a little bit closer to help her mom out with him as much as we can. So we kind of uprooted, relocated here to Maryland, and now we're here. But my story starts in South Carolina. Grew up in a very Southern home, like a very Southern traditional home. Like you went to church on Sunday mornings, like you went and had like this unhealthy lunch after service was over during church. You worked at the same job for 40 to 50 years of your life. Then you retire, then you die like 3 years later. That sounds like a very boring life to me, but anyways, yeah, it sounds terrible. And like I say this, and like my granddad, he's 73 and he still works, and he's been at the same company for like 52 years. And I'm like, dude, like that's just like next level loyalty. Like that's just like top notch loyalty to a company. But anyways, kind of I like to put that in there because a lot of people, they know how unhealthy the South is. I always make the joke with people that everything in the South is fried food and Jesus, because it kind of is. Everything is fried, smothered, covered in gravy, dipped in like cooking oil. Like there's just nothing healthy about the South. And my family falls into that category. I'm actually the only person in my family who does not have diabetes, who does not have high blood pressure, and also has like major illness such as that. My mother, for example, she just turned 50. I actually just talked to her like 40 minutes ago. So before we hopped on here, because she had another specialist doctor's appointment today. Just kind of retrospect, my mom has been in the ICU 3 times this year. And she's only, yeah, this year alone. Yeah. And she just turned 50. So for retrospect, my mom's only like 20 years older than me. So just turned 50. Yeah,
5 years
right.
older than me.
So she just turned 50, spent 3 different stays in the ICU this year alone. We found out that her kidneys are shutting down on her. We figured out that her eyes are slowly not working anymore. She's having to have another procedure done in a few weeks to figure out why she's not using the restroom correctly. And all of this is actually rooted back to her diabetes. And it's rooted back to her not taking care of herself. So I grew up, yeah. So I grew up in like a very super unhealthy family, and I've kind of been the outlier for that. I've been the outlier for a lot of things in my life, but I want to dig a little bit deeper into something that I think will motivate a lot of you guys. Growing up in that family, I got caught up very much in that traditional, Southern dietary lifestyle. I would not really worry about what I was eating. I would just be like, oh, well, like I'm a guy, I'm supposed to eat a lot. And things really got bad whenever my dad got addicted to drugs. My dad became an alcoholic, and things got really bad at home. He would get high, get drunk. He would take his anger from some of his personal demons out on my mom and out on me. I spent most of my childhood watching my dad go in and out of jail. I would always end up trying to figure out when my dad would be coming back home, because like on a Friday, like he would leave and go somewhere and he wouldn't come back for like a week, for 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. And it's like one morning he just shows back up and I'm like, oh, like, where have you been? So I grew up in a household that was filled with a lot of addiction from my dad, a lot of abuse from my dad as well, and a lot of abandonment. Eventually, my mother found the courage to up and divorce my dad. They went over a custody battle. Of course, she won custody over me, and he had no rights to see me due to his arrest history and all that. And with that, I actually started blaming myself a lot for the divorce, because this happened whenever I was like 7. Like a 7-year-old doesn't know the difference between like night and day sometimes. Like a 7-year-old doesn't understand what a divorce is. A 7-year-old doesn't understand what addiction is. A 7-year-old doesn't understand what domestic abuse is. A 7-year-old only knows like, hey, my dad left and never came back. And I started blaming myself a lot for that. I looked at myself and I was like, well, I'm a fat kid. So is it the fact that I'm a fat kid? I suck at baseball. Is it the fact that I suck at baseball? Like, because I legit do suck at baseball. I eventually figured out that football is my sport, but I sucked at baseball. So like I always thought, like, was that the reason why he left? Because like I wasn't a good enough baseball player. Like I spent most of my childhood digging for reasons, trying to figure out why my dad left, and why my dad never came back. And with that, like I turned to food, because I didn't know I was depressed. Like I said, a 7-year-old doesn't know what depression is. And believe it or not, you can't be depressed at that age. I turned to food very quickly and spent the next 7 to 8 years of my life just eating away my feelings. If I was happy, I would eat. If I was sad, I would eat. If I had a bad day at school, I would eat. If I was frustrated with something, I'd eat. Like eating was my comfort. Eating was the way that I kind of filled that void in myself. And I eventually found myself weighing around 335 pounds by the time I was 15, 16 years old. Like 15 and a half, but if you believe in the half year thing. I found my, Huh? What was that?
I said kids do. I have a whole bunch
Yeah,
of twins.
yeah, exactly. Like you ask like a 4 year old, like, hey, are you four? No, I'm four and a half. Like
Half,
I'm
yeah.
close to five. But yeah, so like I was around 15, 16 years old and I was 335 pounds. Like I was wearing like a 3X shirt, size 40 jeans, which I know like men and women jeans are like measure difference. Like size 40 is huge for men jeans.
It's
I
big
was,
for women too. Yeah.
what's that?
It's big for women too.
Yeah, yeah. I was not at a healthy point in my life, and I always make the joke that I was the Chris Farley of my friend group. And if you don't know who Chris Farley is, you know, he was an old comedian back in the 90s who always made jokes about his weight. I was that guy. I would always just laugh it off. I would always just like let my friends like make me the butt of every joke. And deep down, that was hurting me. Deep down, that was killing me. But in reality, I saw no way out. I was like, okay, I'm just going to be this fat kid for the rest of my life. I can't get a girlfriend. Like my dad left and never came back. Like I really don't feel like part of my friend group because like they're always picking on me. And that made me even severely depressed. Like that deepened my depression to the point where I became suicidal. I failed my first suicide attempt at 16. As you guys can tell, I suck at baseball and committing suicide. Little dark humor there. But thankfully, I suck at committing suicide. Still here, thankfully. Failed that attempt. Then one day I had the idea. I was like, well, we're here. We might as well make the best of the situation. Like, we're not going anywhere. And I discovered football. I started playing football, fell in love with football. I lost a little bit of weight with football. Like I got down to around 300 pounds, but which is still heavy for a teenager. But it was justified because I was a offensive lineman. I had to be big. I had to be a big guy. So I found justification for my bad habits. And I played football, I finally had that friend group, or I felt like I finally belonged to like a group, and like things got better for a little bit. Then I graduated high school, went off to college, and I discovered something very unique about college. And like, I really hope people pass this along to people or like kind of pick up on this idea. Whenever you go off to college, you have the opportunity to rewrite who you are. Like seriously, like if you go off to college, like where nobody knows who you are, you get to rewrite who you are. And like I'm discovering that about like moving to a different state as well, where nobody knows who you are. Like you get to rewrite who you are, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But like that's what I did. I was like, okay, I'm like 300 pounds. I don't like my body. I'm not happy with what I see in the mirror. I'm not happy with how I feel. I am not happy with like how I feel mentally. And I was like, yeah, like suicide is not another route we're trying to go down. Like, we're not trying to get back to that point. So I started working out. I had no idea what I was doing in the gym other than like the basic like football lifts, like they taught us incorrectly in the gym. Um, but like I had no idea what I was doing. I would go into the community gym on campus, walk on the treadmill for a little bit, do some like bicep curls, do like a few like sets of like lat pull downs, and I would call it a day. I was like, okay, cool, that's enough. Like that would do. But here's the thing, like it was something. It was better than doing nothing. And I eventually met my friend Matt, who is a bodybuilder, and he introduced me to bodybuilding. I started working with Matt one-on-one kind of closely. And Matt became actually like technically my first coach. I never paid Matt. Matt was never called himself my coach, but he was a coach. Like he was somebody who guided me, which is what a coach is. And he helped me lose weight. Like he taught me the sport of bodybuilding. I learned what bodybuilding is, like how to do a prep, like how to go through a prep. I went through my first bodybuilding prep and I got down to 182 pounds. Like yeah. So all together, just for a little retrospect, in my whole entire lifespan, my heaviest, as like a kind of like a adult, of course, my heaviest was like 335. My lowest is 182. Like that's around 145, almost 150 pounds. So that's how much weight I've lost in my lifetime. So like I know what it takes to have a extreme weight loss journey. And my story is a little unique because everybody I get to this point and everybody goes, oh man, like that's such an amazing story, like that's such a happy ending, like you discovered bodybuilding, you started competing, like you lost all this weight, you fell in love with bodybuilding, you became a personal trainer, then became like a nutrition coach. And yes, but there's a different part of my story that I like to share more than my weight loss journey. And I always say this, and people look at me so puzzled whenever I say this, especially whenever I'm speaking to like a live audience, like an in-person audience. And it's merely the fact because what I went through in my earlier years and my years as an obese kid and obese teenager was nothing compared to what I went through whenever I was from the age of 22 to 24, 25. I graduated college. I graduated college with actually a bunch of pieces of paper. I actually graduated college with 2 bachelor degrees, went on to get my master's as well. And after I graduated college, I broke up. Well, I didn't break up. My college sweetheart and I broke up. She ended up leaving me because I discovered, she was cheating on me and stuff like that. But that's a different story for a different time. I was alone for the first time since I was a teenager who felt suicide. I was alone because keep in mind, I started playing football. So I had my group. I had people to distract me. I had people to keep me busy, keep me preoccupied. I had a sport to keep me busy, to keep me preoccupied. I got into college. I met my girlfriend at that time. We dated all throughout college. I was preoccupied. I was busy. I had somebody hyping me up all the time. I had somebody distracting me from my problems. For the first time in a long time, I was alone. And I quickly discovered that there was a lot of trauma, a lot of demons, and a lot of issues that I had not resolved with myself. Like my dad leaving and never coming back. I found myself being 22, 23 years old, still upset over that. Something like I was upset over whenever I was 7 or 8 years old. I let that trauma build up so much to a point. I let the trauma of being an overweight kid build up. All of the mean things that was ever said to me, all of the mean jokes that was made, towards me, all of the girls who would go, oh, like you're a nice guy, but I just don't date fat guys. Like I let every single little thing be stored in the back of my head. And whenever I was alone now and I had nobody distracting me, everything just came flooding back. All of the trauma, all of the mean jokes, all of the bad comments, all of the, depressed moments, the suicide attempt, everything came back. And I didn't know how to cope because I'm now alone. I'm bodybuilding. And the only bright note in my life at that time was I actually got a job with the university that I graduated from. They hired me like straight out of school. And like, still to this day, I work for myself. And I even look back at that job and I go, that is my favorite job I've ever had just because of the environment. Because like your environment's everything. And like the environment we had in that office was like next level. So like still to this day, that's my favorite job in the world. But anyways, so they hired me straight out of college, and that was the only good thing going for me. I knew I couldn't go back to eating everything in sight because like we've been down that route. Like the stove has burnt us before with that. So we know, okay, cool. So if we eat our feelings, we're going to eventually gain all this weight back. Then we're back from square one. So why not we try drinking? Drinking isn't like, there's not that many calories in vodka, not that many calories in tequila. Like, you can fill that void, numb the pain a little bit without over consuming in calories. Keep in mind, at this time in my life, I'm still bodybuilding. I'm personal training on the side. I'm working this higher education job. But at night, I'm drinking half of a bottle of tequila or half a bottle of vodka or like sometimes half a bottle of Jack. Just depends on what was cheapest on the shelf that day. And I found myself making that a routine. This was my routine. This is how crazy my routine was. I would wake up at 5 a.m. hungover. I would go to the gym, get to the gym at 5:30. I would get on the stair climber for 90 minutes. If you've ever been on a stair climber, once you get like to a 15-minute mark, it's like, man, this thing's kicking my ass. So I stayed on that thing for 90 minutes. I would get off, go home, shower, get ready for work, go to work, get off work, go to the gym, lift, go home, start drinking, pass out, repeat. That was my life for 2.5 years.
Mm.
And along that 2.5 years, cocaine got involved as well. So now, not only towards the end of that time in my life, cocaine started to get involved, and I became an addict. I became my dad. I became the one thing I did not want to become in this lifetime. I legit became my dad. I didn't value anybody but myself. All I valued was getting drunk or getting high. I had zero respect for women at that time in my life, because like I'm this 22, 23, 24-year-old bachelor who's single, who's in great shape, who is now an alcoholic as well. Like all I knew was like, hey, Mike's the life of the party. Whenever in reality, whenever Mike showed up, everybody hated the party. And I think back and I'm like, man, if you were to tell 23, 24-year-old me that, he'd be so pissed. But like legit, that's the facts.
Mhm.
I fell down this dark hole, this dark spiral to a point. I lost my job. I made some stupid decisions one night, and it came back to bite me in the butt a few weeks later, and I lost my job at the university. This was like after I've got my master's degree in athletic administration. I had this plan. I'm working in student affairs right now. Eventually, whenever the athletic department has a job opening, I'm going to hop over there, work there, climb my way up. Like I had everything planned out. And then this happened. I lost my job, and here I am, 24 years old, bodybuilding in the best shape of my life. But guess what? I'm also an addict. So like whenever you guys look at people on like social media and you go, oh my God, like they're in amazing shape, or like they look phenomenal, you don't know what they got going on in the dark. Like legit, you could be in the best shape of your life, but you could be completely fucked up here, because I was. That was legit the best shape of my life. Like I still tell people like that is the best shape I was ever in, but it's because I was running my body into the ground.
Mhm.
Lost my job, started working part-time at a vitamin shop. And like this was embarrassing, because like I have 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, and I had started the path to my PhD. So I'm here working part-time at a vitamin shop, personal training on the side as well. And I get evicted from my apartment because I'm no longer paying my bills, because I'm just worried about where my next drink is coming from. Get evicted. My mom, who then my stepdad, tells me, hey, move into my old house. You won't have to pay a single bill. You can just put your money out, blah, 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 blah. So here I am, 24. I'm having a master's degree, living in my mom's house for $0. And yet I'm still drinking my life away. And I look back at that time in my life, and it's just simply the fact I wasn't tired of my own bullshit yet.
Mhm.
Because like that's the true facts. I was not tired of my own bullshit yet. I got fired, like legit. I got fired. I walked out of my office, like I collected all my things. I walked out of my office, got in my car. I was like, I'll be all right. Like I'll rebound, whatever. Then I went off and started drinking. Like I was not like I lost a job that I loved, like legit loved. And that was not enough to slap me in the face. I was working part-time at a vitamin shop, making $10 an hour, and I have a master's degree, living in my mom's house for free, not paying a single bill. And that still wasn't enough to slap me in my face. There was not one person in my phone that I could pick up and call and say, hey, I need you, or hey, I need something, without them being like, hey, fuck off. Because I burnt every bridge in my life at that time. That was not enough to slap, like that was not enough to slap me in the face to say, hey, wake up. I eventually got to the point where my routine after I got off at the vitamin shop was I would go to the Buffalo Wild Wings, because it's right across the road. I would watch whatever football game was on that night. I would have a few beers, have some dinner, go home, drink a little bit more, pass out, wake up in the morning, personal train, and then go to my shift. That became my routine. That was my new routine. One night I went to the vitamin shop, or excuse me, one night I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, started my nightly routine, started my nightly cap, as I would call it. And I was like, I don't know how much money I have in my account. Pulled my account up, had $70. They gave me the bill. It was, or correction, I had $100. They gave me the bill. It was $60 plus a tip. It was 70, because like even then, whenever I was broke, I still believed in tipping well. Was like, cool, I'll have about $30 left. I'm going to go to Walmart and get like a 24 pack of like the cheapest beer they have is like $18. Like, okay, cool. That's like $12 left. And it kind of hit me. I was like, okay, so we're only going to have $12 to our name at the end of the night. We don't get paid for another week and a half. We're living in your mom's house for free. What are you doing? Like, there's nobody that wants you around. Like, you're alone. Like, you've gotten what you wanted. You're alone. And I decided, I was like, I found myself in my dad's shoes. And I told myself I would never be there. And I decided there's no way out. And I decided, cool, we're going to go to Walmart, get that 24 pack. We're going to go home, drink it all, finish the job. That was going to be it. That was going to be the story, or the life story of Michael, the life story of Mike. Like, that was going to be it, because I had my mind made up. Went to Walmart, got the 24 pack, started drinking them and driving. So like, I was like legit to the point where I had no regard for anybody's safety. I was drinking and driving. I turned onto an old dirt road that leads down to my mom's house. And till this day, I've driven down that road for the last 29 years. I've only seen a DUI stop point once. That was that night. I rolled up on the checkpoint. I was like, cool, we've been faking sober for the last 2.5 years. Like, we could get away with it. Like, it's fine. Like, you haven't even been drinking that much. Here's a fun fact. Cops, they can tell. They can tell whenever you're faking it. So if you think, I could fake sober to a cop. No, you can't.
No.
No, you can't. I tried. But they pulled me out the car, did the field sobriety test. I was like, hey, like, I live like 2 minutes from here. Like, legit, if I walk, it'll take me 15 minutes. Like, if you just want to follow me home, that's cool. He's like, no, just stay here. Like, you passed the test, but like, I'm giving you a ticket for open container and blah, 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 blah. He wrote me a ticket. He handed it over. He started talking about like court dates and like where I needed to show up and like what would happen if I didn't show up. And it's like, do you have any questions? And this is the part of my story that I always get, it always gets in my throat. I was like, no, I don't have any questions, but I don't want you to leave. And this is a grown man telling another grown man who's a cop saying, hey, I don't want you to leave. And it just kind of floored him. He was like, what do you mean? I was like, I legit, like, I don't like want to leave. Like, I don't want you to leave. I don't want to leave. He's like, but why? And on the side of a highway, on an old country road, I broke down. I legit broke down in tears, told this man my life story, from my dad being abusive to me becoming an addict. I told him everything, like everything. And this cop listened. He spent 20 minutes of his time listening. And he was like, are you okay? I was like, to be honest, I was going to go home and blow my brains out, but I think I'm okay. He was like, okay, cool. Since you said that, we got to take you for like safety, observation and all that stuff. And I was like, that's fine. Like, as long as I'm not under arrest and all that stuff, like, I'm cool. And he was like, nope, you're just going for safety observation. You'll meet with like a psychologist in the morning, and, you'll get to go home, like, if they clear you. They cleared me that next morning. I went home, poured every single drop of alcohol I had in my house out, took a shower, got out the shower, looked in the mirror, and I said, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Because I have finally had enough of my shit. That moment, that night, I had enough of my shit. I was tired. I was tired of being broke. I was tired of relying on my mom. I was tired of feeling bad for myself because my dad left. I was tired of always being drunk or high. I was tired of everybody that knows me now knows me as Mike the drunk or Mike the player. Like, it ate alive at me that night and that next morning, because I'm a firm believer that as children, we know who we're supposed to be in this lifetime. And like, this is kind of like wooey stuff. So if you're not into that, I apologize. But I'm a firm believer that from the young age of 5, we kind of have an idea of who we want to be in this world. Like, think about it. Whenever you were 5, you probably had an idea, oh, I want to be a teacher, or like be a lawyer, or be a doctor, or be like a firewoman, like fireman, firewoman, or be like a policeman, police officer. Like, we have an idea of what role in society we want to play. And a role that I knew I wanted to play since I was young, since watching my dad abuse my mom, I knew I don't know what we're going to do occupational wise, but we're going to impact the world. We're going to make a difference in somebody's life. We're going to have this story to share, and it's going to be a damn good story. I knew that since I was young. And that morning, I told myself, dude, you're letting the 5-year-old Michael down. The 5-year-old Michael wouldn't be proud of who we are today. The 5-year-old Michael wouldn't be okay with where we are. And I legit broke down. I remember I was in my bathroom. I completely broke down, and I committed that morning. I committed myself to being 1% better every single day. And it's funny, Ed Milet, he recently came out with a book called The Power of One More, and he talks about it. But like, it's something that I've been living for the last 4 years, because I got clean around 25 and I'm 29 now. So I've been living this for the last 4 to almost 5 years. And it's just the idea of you wake up and you do something that's going to make you 1% better. And it's not like you're going to run, like, it's not like you're going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, I'm going to run a marathon. That's how I'm going to be 1% better. No, like, if you had 4 glasses of water yesterday, have 5 today. If you only slept 5 hours last night, sleep 6 tonight. That's 1% better. You're doing something that's going to improve your life by 1%. And even if it's just going to Starbucks and telling the barista, hey, like, I see you're working hard today. Keep up the good work. Guess what? You impacted the world today. Guess what you did? You got 1% better. And it's just the idea of finding a way to make not only your life, but other people's lives 1% better as well. Because one thing that I realized that morning is I spent the last 2.5 years taking my trauma out on others. I spent the last 2.5 years blaming everybody for my trauma except for me. Whenever in reality, a lot of my trauma did come because of other people, but I never handled it. I never took time away to say, hey, you know what? We need to work through some things. Keep in mind, I was in therapy since I was 16. I was hiding a lot of things in therapy. So I had the help, but guess what? I wasn't allowing myself to be helped. My therapist, bless her heart, she knew I was an alcoholic. She could tell. She knew I was starting to have a drug issue. She could tell. But she waited for me to man up. She waited for me to admit, hey, I have an issue. Hey, I need your help. Because in reality, and here's the thing as coaches, and like, I have to remind myself of this as a coach as well, we can only help you so much. We can't help you fully until you say, hey, I'm ready to be helped. We can sit here until we're blue in the face and say, hey, I want to help you lose weight. Hey, I want to help you eat better. Hey, I want to help you make healthier choices. But guess what? If you're not willing to admit, hey, I need help. Hey, I need to change. Hey, it's now my time to actually become the person I want to be. It's never going to happen, because here's a great, analogy that I like to use a lot. And it's talking about a brick wall. Eventually, you're going to run into a brick wall in life, and that brick wall is going to smack you. But the crazy thing is, a lot of people, that brick wall is death. Like, legit, it's crazy enough to like think about it. Like, that brick wall for a lot of people is death. But here's the reality. And, I always like to emphasize this, towards the end of my story. I'm a firm believer. You don't have to go through all this trauma for change. You don't have to have a dad walk out on you. You don't have to have a dad abuse you. You don't have to go through addiction. You don't have to go through addiction recovery. You don't have to go through obesity. You don't have to go through all of these things that I've been through in life in order to change. Because guess what? Everything that I went through, it's just part of my story called life. And you have something similar. It might not be extreme, and that's okay. You don't have to have this extreme, like miraculous, like hero story. Your hero story is simply making yourself better. And one thing that I always like to really harp on a lot and like put a lot of emphasis on is the fact that if you're a parent, guess what? Your motivation's there. And that's one thing that, anytime any of my clients that are parents go, well, I don't have motivation. Cool. What's your lock screen again? Oh, well, it's like my kids. Cool. There's your motivation. Congrats. You found it. And they're like, but what do you mean? And I bring this story up to them. I go, my dad left whenever I was 7, 8 years old, never came back. The last thing I heard about my dad, I was 20 years old and found out he had a tumor on his liver and it ruptured and killed him. My mom, I told you guys about her. She's 50 and has all of these medical issues. I legit stood in the ICU on my birthday this year and begged her to better her health. Stood in the ICU on my birthday, my 29th birthday, and cried in front of her and asked her to please just try. Guess what? She's still not trying. I have to wake up every morning thinking, is this my last day without my mom? Great example. My aunt FaceTimed my fiance last night, which was super random, super weird because it was like 8:30 at night. And I was like, this is the call. I was like, this is the call. Like, it was ingrained into me. It was already in my mind. I was like, this is the call that I've been dreading for the last few years. It was my 3-year-old nephew wanting to talk to Catherine and I. Like, it was a welcome surprise, of course, because he's finally learning how to like fully talk. But like, if you're a parent, do you want your kid to go through that? And like, I bring that up to my mom a lot. I'm like, look, you are all that I have. Like, I tell my mom all the time, hey, you had your mom until she was 68. Hey, my granddad's still around. He's 73. You've had 60 plus years with both of your parents. I don't want to say I've only had 50, because look, that's not enough. Because, I will say this, regardless if your kid is 10, 20, or 30, I'm about to be 30 and I'm about to get married next year. I have no idea how to be a husband. I'm supposed to model myself after my dad as a husband? Absolutely not. I was already my dad for 2 years. I'm not going to be him again. I'm going to be a father in the next few years whenever we start trying. I'm supposed to model myself after my dad? Absolutely not. I'd be the worst dad in the world. I need my mom. I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a dad. Am I going to figure it out day by day? Absolutely. Am I going to give it my best effort? You bet your ass. Because I committed to myself that I'm going to be what my dad should have been. And that's something that drives me every single day. There's 2 things in my life that drives me every single day. And it's the fact that I'm trying to be the man that my dad should have been. And the other thing is the woman that's on the other side of this wall, who's currently cooking dinner for us. She is my reason, like legit, she is my reason every single morning. I wake up every morning. Guess what? I wake up some mornings. I woke up this morning. I was like, man, that snooze button seems very good right now. Another 30 minutes sounds really great. Man, it's 4 a.m. It's still dark outside. It's 40 degrees right now. This bed's very warm. My fiance is nice, nice and asleep. Like, I could just snuggle up to her and go back to sleep. I didn't. I got up and I started working. Why? Because I got to give her the life that my dad didn't give my mom. And that's one thing that I encourage you to do. Find your reason. And your reason doesn't have to be your kids. Your reason doesn't have to be your spouse. Your reason could be your dog Fido for all I care. But better yet, why not your reason be you? Like, seriously, you think I got clean for Catherine? I didn't even know Catherine whenever I was starting my journey to get clean. You think I got clean for my 3 dogs that I have now? Am I glad that I am clean for them? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I knew I needed to get clean for myself, that it was time to stop doing things and it was time to stop allowing people to be the reason why I was losing the weight or getting clean or trying to look a certain way. I needed to start doing things for myself. So, once again, I encourage you to find a reason. It could be your spouse. That's completely fine. My fiance is my reason. But also my secondary reason is to ensure that I am the person that I promised myself I would be. And like, if you can't hold a promise to yourself, like legit, I want you guys to like grab a piece of paper tonight before you go to bed, write down one promise to yourself that you want to fulfill within the next calendar year. Not by the end of this year, within the next calendar year, meaning by October the 12th, 2023. 365 days. You got 365 days to commit to yourself for one promise. If you cannot do that, I highly believe that you don't respect yourself. And I know that's harsh, but I truly think that if we can't hold a promise to ourselves, how can we hold promises to other people? So, guys, that's kind of like my story in a nutshell. That's kind of like my spiel on motivation. To be frank, you guys have heard it before. And it's not sexy, it's not pretty, it's not this secret life hack, but motivation is straight up bullshit. Because I'm telling you, this morning was a great example because I did not want to get up at all. I think back right now, I'm like, man, that snooze button was really good this morning, but we still got up. Like, find your reason. Mm-hmm. Because my fiance, she's a year older than me. And I promised I'd have her retired or living comfortably where she wouldn't have to work whenever we start having kids. We're going to start having kids or trying whenever she's 33, 34. I don't have a lot of time. I'm on a time crunch. I have to get my feet moving because it's something that I promised her. It's something that I want to give her. I don't want her to ever have to worry about working again. So guess what? I got my ass up at 4 a.m. when it was freezing cold and came into my office and did work. So guys, find your reason. I promise you won't ever need motivation again.
I agree 1000%. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Michael. It's incredible. It's incredible the things that you've overcome to get to the place where you are today. But I think a lot of it rings true in that, it goes back to you and what you want out of life, but to when you were really speaking about being a parent. And that's something I think a lot of people need to look at much more seriously and take a lot more responsibility than they do, is that your child is either going to model you exactly, yep, or they're going to be so repulsed by what the parent modeled that then we must go the other way and be this person that their parent couldn't be. And there's no other choice for us. And so I think that really goes back to the parent to think about what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah. And like, I'm a great example of that because, like I said, everybody in my family has some type of medical condition. My dad was an addict. And I remember like I got to that point to where I was like, I don't want to be like my family. I love my family. Like, I look like my family, like, I have the same personality traits as them, but like, I don't want to be like them. Like, and like, it's funny because like, I'm always the black sheep of everything in my family. Cause like, even like down to my tattoos, like I have like a full sleeve of nothing but like skulls and roses. And like, the funniest thing about that is like, my granddad's been a pastor for like the last 26 years. So like, anytime like I go to church and like my like tattoo sleeve is out, everybody's just staring at me. I'm like, yeah, I'm the pastor's grandkid, what's up? but see, like, here's the thing, like, and I encourage everybody watching this, like, you hold the pen to your story called life. Seriously, like you have the pen, nobody else does. And because like here's the legit facts. Only you know who you truly are. So only you can paint the true picture of who you are. Nobody else can. Sure, my fiance knows a lot about me. Like it's scary how much she knows and like how well she can read me. But I'm telling you, she could paint a pretty damn good picture of me probably, but it won't be perfect. Only I can paint that perfect picture of myself, and only you can paint that perfect picture of yourself. Excuse me. That's like a tongue twister. But in reality, you know who you're supposed to be in this world. You know who you're supposed to be in this lifetime. You know what you're capable of. So the only question is, when are you going to start living up to it?
That's so golden. And again, that just goes back to really getting real freaking honest with yourself.
Yeah. And honestly, like I think people are scared to do that because like they're scared to face past traumas, because I think people see past traumas as like, oh, like I've gotten over that hump, like that was in my past, I want to leave it in my past. Absolutely. Like if you're over it completely and you're healed from it, leave it dead, like leave it left to die. But like this is me being vulnerable with you guys. I still struggle with like things that are related to suicide. So like I can't watch a movie if like there's a suicide scene in it. If there's a suicide scene in it, I'm done. Like I'm no longer watching this. Just because it's a trigger. And you know, that doesn't mean I'm suicidal still, but it just means like I'm still healing from something. And that's fine. Because I would rather be healing from something instead of pushing something way down and letting it eat me alive, because eventually that thing that's eating you alive, it snowballs and it comes back bigger than ever.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think learning your triggers is huge. And then, like you said, actively doing something to help yourself heal from those is super important.
Absolutely. But like this is just one topic that is just near and dear to my heart, because I've learned, I would say I learned the hard way that really life is what you make it. And like nobody else is going to make life happen for you. And like it's the reality. Like for example, as coaches, we can hold the flashlight for you, we can write the perfect plan, we could write the perfect like nutrition prescription, we could write out the like most bomb ass workout in the world, but if you don't execute, you're not going to see the results. Because like it's just like going to work. Like if you skip going to work, do you expect a paycheck on Friday? No, probably not, right? Like unless you got like PTO and like a understanding boss. Then if you do, let me know who they are, because like I'll gladly just like get that job and be like, hey, I ain't coming in. Where's my paycheck? But you know, you got to show up to get the results, because there's a great saying that I use all the time. Those who are always looking for results never find results, but those who never look for results eventually find results.
Right. That's so true. And it all boils back to application. Yeah, we had quite a few people on Facebook. Nobody commented anything, but we had a lot of likes.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, so if you don't mind, guys, I am going to leave her with a link to a Google form. It's like it'll take you like 30 seconds to fill out. I promise it won't take long at all. And I'm not trying to collect your email address. Like that's one thing I do like to like put that out there. I'm not trying to like collect your email address and like send you spammy stuff. That's not what this is for. This is basically just telling me what I can do better as a speaker. So you guys will probably get a link in the comment section to fill out for me, which does help me a lot. And it also helps me as I grow my speaking company as well. And it helps me. It's actually helped me get a lot of public speaking gigs like at schools and stuff. So believe it or not, like you taking 30-45 seconds to do this form for me really does help. So I would highly appreciate it if you guys would.
Yeah. Yeah, just send that to me and I'll make sure it gets dropped under the video in the site of the group. And we had one comment, Jeanette said you have a great story to tell. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I do want to close with this. You have a very unique story, and it will not look like mine. But here's the thing, my story will not look like yours. But your story will probably touch somebody that my story won't. So always and I mean always share your story with people, because you never know if it will save a life. Because some of the biggest DMs that I've ever gotten in my life is after I do like these guest things, and somebody DMs me saying, hey, like you legit like help me like beat my depression, or like, hey, you legit saved my life with this, or hey, you legit convinced me to quit drinking. So always
That's
share your story.
no, I agree 1000%. We all have a different story to tell for sure. And well, everyone, like you said, everyone's going to relate to someone different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this was fun. This was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I appreciate it. It looks like it was appreciated in the group too. So if you just want to send me the link, I'll go ahead and drop it under the video, and then it will be stored in Facebook forever.
Yeah. Give me one sec and I'll shoot it to you. Thought I had it up, but I didn't. Oops.
I love when I do that.
Well, see, my problem is I have so many tabs up, and I'm like, it's in here somewhere. Then it's not in there at all. I'm like, damn.
Same here.
Right here. All right, cool. So I just sent it over to you through the Zoom chat.
I can just drop it right now. Ooh, I did it.
Awesome. Cool deal. So thank you guys so much for having me. Like I said, if you will, just take like 30-45 seconds to fill that out. Promise, like I'm not going to spam you with stuff. Like I said, this just helps me see how I can improve as a speaker. So it's much appreciated.
No, I think that's fantastic. All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I think it was wonderful. Definitely a lot of relatability in your story for me. Not everyone knows my story. I'm still like recovering from shit that's like 20 years old, but I'll get there eventually. I've got a good support team. So
Well, I love to hear that. And as you know, like sometimes having support is the best thing that you can have, because like I know what it's like to go through shit alone, and it's not fun. So lean on your support system.
Yeah. No, it's not fun to do alone. And I think a lot of the whole reason that it's taken so long is because I was alone for a long time. But I'm not in that place anymore. So that's good. So we're working on healing now. And I'll get there eventually. I know I'm way further than I was 15 years ago.
I love that.
Well, thank you, Michael. I appreciate it very much. I think that our group appreciated it from the comments that we had and the likes that we had. And I've dropped the link inside of the video, so it will live inside of Facebook forever. And hopefully, as we get more people watching the video, you'll get some more feedback.
Awesome. This was terrific. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time tonight, Michael. Appreciate it.
You too.
All right.